We call our Tuesday, December 12th City Council meeting to order. We have Pledge of Allegiance and Invocation. Councilman Hester is out, so I will do that. If we would all stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Okay, if we would all pray. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this opportunity to serve your people today. Bless this meeting to be done decently and in order, and bless us to be led with wisdom. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. All right. We have no special presentations today. Can I have an approval on the minutes? Okay, minutes stand without objection. All right, council, if you would take a look at your agenda for this evening. We have several things going on today. We do have Parks and Public Works meeting as well as a brief attorney-client meeting after that. If you look at your order of business this evening, please hit your light. Thank you, Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Karen, if you don't mind coming up for just a minute. Planning item 2023-0116, we deferred several times. I called you this afternoon, or I guess it was this morning, about splitting the baby.
Yes.
And you said it would be possible to approve one of the lots and deny the other. And so I guess what I need from Mr. Attorney.
Yes, sir.
Would it be possible, what I would like to do is have this as an alternate version rather than trying to make an amendment from the floor so that
Yes, sir.
everybody understands. Karen, you had sent me an email earlier today about some language to split the baby. Do you mind sharing that with the attorney now so that after we come back from break, we could have this as an alternate version?
Yes, would you like me to read that or just,
Well, I guess go ahead and read it. That way the council will have knowledge of what I'm trying to do here. And then, and I guess is there any way to pull this up on the screen so that?
there is, the presentation is loaded, and I can show I believe there is a desire to approve 1137 Old Pineville Road with conditions and to deny the rezoning 1133 Old Pineville Road. So the rezoning request is to rezone those two properties from R1 to R3. And so as of right now, language we discussed was to approve rezoning 1137 Old Pineville Road to R3 residential zone with a condition there shall be no access to Old Pineville Road for multifamily residential development or related uses, and deny the rezoning of 1133 Old Pineville Road. And I can forward that.
And is that condition currently on the both lots?
It is not, no.
Okay.
So the condition would just go on the one property at 1137.
Okay.
And what I would like to do, Mr. Attorney, is have that in so that it could just be made into one motion. Approve 1137 and deny 1133.
Yes, sir. And I will get an alternate version up available for this
With the
evening.
condition.
With that condition.
I'll forward the language to you.
You can do that to me and Maria, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
That's it, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you, Councilman Henderson. We'll be looking for an alternate version this evening. All right, council, if you continue to look at your agenda, ordinances on the final reading, legal. We have some wastewater items we'll cover in Parks and Public Works. Ordinances on the first reading, we have fire. We've covered one of the planning items. And if you would just take a look there. Item D is in District 7. That does need to be deferred until January the 16th, so I can have time to talk to the applicant. So if we can, if somebody would please. Councilwoman Knoll.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I have all three of my items, E, F, and G, that I am going to defer as well.
All right. Do you have a date?
I do. I'm going to go with, let me see. Let's see. E, F and G can be on the 9th,
Okay.
and E would have to be on the 16th because the neighborhood association meeting doesn't meet until the 10th.
All right.
The 19th through the 16th.
E will be January the 16th.
Yes.
And then F and G, we're looking for a motion to defer those two into January the 9th.
January
Yes.
9th.
Okay.
Then
All right.
our D said the 19th, that's what I was checking on, so it's the 16th.
The 16th, yes, I'm sorry, yes, January the 16th for D. All right, okay. All right, thank you, Councilwoman Knoll. If you will take a look at resolutions, we have economic development. We also have human resources. Any comments or questions regarding that item? All right. Okay, and Ryan, did you want to come up and speak about that item, item C?
Could I do it later?
Later, you can do it later, Ryan. All right, resolutions on the mayor's office. And, there are board appointments. Any comments or questions, hit your lights. Under planning, resolutions, we have a PUD and Public Works. Any comments or questions? All right. All right, council, if you will take a look at next week's proposed agenda items. Have any comments or questions? All right, Madam Vice Chair Hill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to point out to my colleagues that the rollerblading ordinance, as discussed in Legislative Committee, is on our two-week agenda for a first read on the 19th. And I would love your feedback, and I'm happy to discuss how to make it something that works well for the city.
All right. Right, Madam Vice Chair, and from District 7, there was a question about, just a second, regarding this ordinance. If there was anyone that has been ticketed prior to regarding this, if there's any data from that. Do we know how many people or residents have been pulled over, issued a ticket, and made to appear in court? Or is there any enforcement currently on the books for that? And of course, we want people to be safe. So this is just some feedback I got from some of the business owners downtown. So is there any data or anything regarding this ordinance?
Actually, yes, people being pulled over, there aren't a large number of people who have been pulled over, but those that have been ticketed. And currently, I believe it is a misdemeanor to rollerblade or skateboard downtown. This ordinance does, while it changes the way that we would regulate skateboards and rollerblades, it still sets up rules for their use and for protection of property. So just to briefly clarify that, in section 2410, it says that, in section 24.6, related to reckless speed, it makes it clear that you cannot operate these devices or other similar devices at a careless, indifferent, or reckless speed through any park, playground, or upon any right-of-way in the city. And then there are a couple of sections within section 2410, specifically item E, that says that you must exercise due care to avoid colliding with any pedestrian upon any roadway, sidewalk, or non-motorized vehicle path, and shall give audible warning when necessary. It also, in section D, does require you to yield to vehicles approaching from the rear by moving to the right curb or shoulder. And then section 2528, this is the one that I'm recommending that we strike the prohibition of skates within a downtown overlay, but instead to have language for reckless or destructive operation, saying that no person shall operate scooters, inline skates, etc., upon a roadway, sidewalk, or other public property with observed disregard for the safety of persons or destruction of property. And then also item B in that same section says that people cannot operate in a manner that is reasonably likely to damage or deface any public or private property, whether real or personal. So try to maintain all of the protections that we need for safety and to avoid any kind of vandalism, but to make just the actual act of rollerblading legal so that you are not subject to upwards to a $250 ticket.
All right, thank you so much. Councilwoman Coonrod,
Thank you,
followed by
Chair.
Councilman Ledford. Go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you, Vice Chairwoman Hill, for allowing us the opportunity to go talk to our constituents. And I had a great deal of response from my constituents. I even posted on social media to engage with those people that are, not really responding to emails or answering phones right now. And I had a mix thoughts from my district. Some were for, some were against, but really highly concerned about the safety of it. And different people, you got kids that rollerblade and they skate, and the parameters around that, like protecting them if they are in the streets, but also the sidewalks aren't even safe. So they went a little deep in the discussion, the question. So but my real focus and main concern is that issuing tickets to people that are skateboarders or skating and things like that, it just added an additional financial burden on people. And we done talked about that repeatedly, how we, when we had those systems and barriers in place, it continued to prevent people from all kind of stuff. And we see the ripple effects of that from losing their license. Now, if you don't have a license to drive and you lose your job, the ability to take care of your kid, we can go on and on and on. And we know that how detrimental that fees and fines can be towards our constituents that we serve. So I most definitely want that to be removed out of it. But I'd like to discuss it further with, how we can be supportive to make it work for the whole city of Chattanooga.
Can I respond?
Go ahead.
I welcome, if you all have language that you would like me to look at working into this document, I'm more than happy to try to do that. Just send it my way.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Coonrod. Councilman Ledford, you okay? You good? All right, council, if you continue to look at next week's proposed agenda items, if you have any comments or questions, please hit your light. All right, we have, next, our purchasing. If you have any questions about purchasing. And, we do need a point of clarity. We do have one RFP as well as a resolution that, deals with the one-to-one. So if someone can please provide clarity as to why we have an RFP and a resolution.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, in this case, the RFP is really just for informational purposes. The council is being asked to vote on the resolution, and the RFP information is just to provide additional information. We'll be reading it into the record for informational purposes, but no action will be needed from council on that RFP information, since the resolution will have already been addressed.
All right, thank you so much. So, thank you, Ryan, we appreciate it. So we will not be voting on the request for proposal this evening. That's just for information purposes only. Okay, any other comments or questions about purchasing? All right, council, if you take a look at future considerations, any comments or questions, please hit your light. All right, I don't see any lights. We do have, a departmental report today, Parks and Public Works. We also have, council members. If you hit your light, please. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. So we had a lot of discussion about the Shallowford Road project last week, and I spent a couple of hours with the developer. And because I am concerned about the process, what I would like to do, and forgive me for taking the time, but I'm going to do it, is read this into the record so that it's in the record.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, if I may. To the council, I said I met with Mr. Cobb earlier this week, and below are his responses to our questions as I wrote them. please let me know if you need other information. Obviously, there is another whole discussion regarding the pilot and its processes. None of the above is intended to address that. Have a good weekend, all right? So the only thing I'm responding to in the record are the things you guys were concerned about. And I'm reading these into the record. I also have it in writing, because once it becomes part of the record, then it becomes of the whole, part of the whole, what the expectations of the pilot. So let me read these. Dr. Burrs, thank you for meeting with me this morning. Below are the items we discussed. Please let me know if you need any other information. The property details. The property will have 96 units, 48 two-bedroom and 48 three-bedroom in 6 buildings, and he gave the attached layout. The buildings will have breezeways. There will not be vending machines in the breezeways. This will target 60% AMI, which is estimated to be families making up to $60,000 in 2025. Here are the issues. On-site management, you brought up. There will be full-time on-site management and full-time on-site maintenance. The Housing Authority will not be managing the property. We manage our properties ourselves. All residents will sign one-year leases, and they will be renewed annually. Landscaping, and then he attached a landscaping plan. You'll see the significant landscaping around the property and in front of each building. Also note there will be sidewalks across the property. Applicant screening, somebody asked about that. All applicants will be screened for criminal background, credit, and rental history. We also have preference for working families. Security, we will have security cameras placed strategically throughout the property, and they will be fully monitored. There was one additional that we got a picture of. For some reason, they were told that they had to have a chain link fence around the property. And I know many of you were, and I said, absolutely not. And so that chain link fence will not be around the property. Is there anything else that I didn't cover with what your concerns were?
Okay, Councilwoman Coonrod. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councilwoman Burrs. Well, my concern is that I brought up and I mentioned to both organizations that were presenting housing is that the background restrictions, like what were the restrictions that they were implementing, like on their application, that could prevent people from getting housed, because a misdemeanor shouldn't be, one thing that would keep somebody from being housed. I've always been a champion for banning the box, but it didn't stop just with being employed with the city of Chattanooga across other areas. It also include housing. So I would love for that to be a priority. And while I do have the mic, I just want to thank Chris Sands and his department, because they have been working so hard to making sure that they get people housed that have background challenges. Like their job and their scope of work has been beyond just working with people that have been affected by guns or trying to get people to put the guns down. Like they do so much more, and a lot of the people that they work with come from those who have challenged backgrounds. So again, I want to thank you, Chris.
All right. And Councilwoman Burrs, I do have Councilman Ledford, and then I can come back to you.
Oh, okay, well, I just wanted to respond.
Okay, go ahead. You can.
We did talk about that. And I can get it in writing for you, but it would be pretty much as the Housing Authority goes. They're not they're for safety reasons restrictive, but let me get that in writing for you, and then you'll have that. That's a really good question. Thank you, ma'am.
Right, thank you. Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is for the city attorney or the administration on under planning item 7. We had discussed in committee last week that we were going to move up to a certain point with the zoning regulations, and then council would then decide, as it is our right to do, on whether to move forward. But I noticed that the administrative items, the administration has put this on as a firm date for voting. And I don't know if that's a clerical error or...
Under future considerations
Yes, ma'am.
For the zoning ordinance, yeah.
for the zoning ordinance.
We decided we were going to go up to that date, and then we would decide, as it is our right to,
Right.
whether to move forward, but I see the administration has placed this
Okay, so
as a firm date.
Right.
And I'm hoping that's just an oversight.
It actually was just an oversight.
Okay.
Because of the dates that we had set earlier before the robust conversation that we had.
And I understand that, so I appreciate that. So, Phil, if we could take that off,
Okay.
we will move forward with the plan as outlined in committee.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman Ledford.
Yes.
The second part of my report, please. Thank you.
Yes.
Go ahead. So that had to do with the requirements or your interest about the quality of the project. The second concern I had was about the pilot process, and I found out recently, and I have asked Jermaine to please speak about that. It will not come before council. My concern there is twofold, and I've already told Jermaine this. He's not being, quote, surprised by this. It has to do with budgetary issues. As chair of the Budget Committee, I need to, in a fiduciary capacity, ask these questions, and it's the impact on the budget. It's a 20-year pilot. And then this is either for you or Phil, I'm not sure. I'm trying to understand how we can do any unilateral action when you're dealing with public taxation.
Sure.
It's almost the converse of taxation without representation. Can you take taxes away and what they provide for the public for a specific issue without any input from the public representation? So
Sure.
I don't care who answers that, but I know there's some legal aspects there too, and I think I would like an answer to that. Thank you.
Sure. So let me jump in with the first part, and then we'll go to the second part, and I'll get some backup from the city attorney. So in the first part about the budgetary implications, so because this is a multifamily development, the apartment complex is required to put in a dumpster as part of multifamily development. So they are required to do trash collection. So there is no impact on our public works department from a budgetary standpoint. There is also not a direct impact on either the police department or the fire department because we are not building in sort of a new section of town. We're building on, the project is imagined to be on a part of Shallowford Road that is pretty centrally located to the city. So it's more of an infill project as opposed to sort of building in sort of an outlying area where you need to put in more infrastructure or hire more people for coverage. So that's the question, that's part of my answer to the question for the first part. The second part of the question is, or the second part of my answer is, right now, that parcel on Shallowford Road is generating roughly $4,000 in property taxes for the city. To my knowledge, it has never been developed. I grew up out in that area. It used to be trees, now it's just cleared. Now it's just grass. So it's an undeveloped tract of land. And so at the end of the tax abatement period, when the property comes back on the tax rolls, we are talking about a $20 million project. So you would see revenue that would be north of $400,000 per year in property taxes once the property comes back on the tax roll. It is a 20-year pilot. The pilot that you all just approved for C&E was also a 20-year pilot. So we're really talking about the same exact sort of tax structure. Now, to the second part of the question, back in 2015, the Tennessee State Legislature basically created a carve-out so that projects that receive what are called low-income housing tax credits, which are given to projects and which are very, very highly competitive from the Tennessee Housing Development Agency. What the Tennessee State Legislature basically did was they said, okay, because we've vetted these projects, because we are giving these projects highly competitive tax credits, we're going to make it a little easier for local communities to promote affordable housing for projects that receive tax credits. So you all are still responsible, and you still have a responsibility of approving pilots that are not low-income housing tax credit projects. The carve-out was only for low-income housing tax credit projects. As many of you know, the city of Chattanooga does not get very many low-income housing tax credit deals. They are highly competitive. You don't see them coming into Hamilton County very much from year to year. In some years, we don't get any low-income housing tax credit awards. There are some years where we've gotten one. There are some years, and actually this year, we were actually fortunate because we got a low-income housing tax credit award for this project at Shallowford Point, but also a low-income housing tax credit award for the Ames Center Sparrow project, which we have all sort of been working on for a number of years. And so we're very fortunate about that. And so, as I said, the Tennessee State Legislature did create a carve-out so that mayors that are in cities that have health and education boards would have the ability to write a letter of support for a low-income housing tax credit pilot and ask their respective health and education board to grant a pilot. But that carve-out, again, is not for every project that is going to come before you that is seeking a pilot, which is why you all voted on the C&E pilot a couple weeks ago. It is only, again, for the rare projects that we get that are receiving a low-income housing tax credit allocation.
Is the assumption that if council had input, the issue would be defeated?
Not necessarily, but the state legislature understood that sometimes affordable housing can be politicized for better or worse. And so what the state legislature's position was, as I understand it, was like, hey, if the state has already granted these highly competitive tax credits to an affordable housing project, then let's make it easier for local communities to bring those housing projects into existence. And so we are very excited about this particular project because it is 96 units. Half of them will be 2-bedrooms, half of them will be 3-bedrooms. So there is a real opportunity for working families to take advantage of these units.
I'm very pleased about the project. I think the project is a terrific project. I think the process leaves, as you know,
Sure.
much to be desired. I don't think you ever leave representatives of the public out of the conversation.
Sure.
I've seen this council work very hard and very quickly to do, quote, the right thing.
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you so much for that explanation, and my
Yes, ma'am.
colleagues may have other questions.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, there are two other questions.
Yes,
So we have Councilman Ledford, followed by Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So kind of piggyback, Jermaine, understanding what happened in 2017 with the Tennessee General Assembly, is it going to be the mayor's priority to do these types of projects in conjunction with a council representative who does represent the people of that district, or leave us kind of in the dark because you can? And,
No.
and my argument,
Yeah.
I hope that's a no.
That is correct.
Okay.
So Mayor Kelly's desire is to continue to make sure that in the rare instances where we do get a low-income housing tax credit award, that we communicate with the council person whose district the project is potentially going to be in.
Right.
So that we make sure that we hear all the concerns for the representative council person.
And the reason I bring that up is because if this is the process and the direction we're moving towards LIHTC developments, we are the first people that get the complaints for when something goes wrong.
Sure.
Management-wise. So I want to make sure that everyone knows, and if you're in the media, please report this, that this is an administrative decision using state law.
It is.
So when things do go wrong and you're down here, I want to make sure we point to the right direction because we did not have a say-so.
Well, that's why we're the executive branch, is so that you can point in that direction. And so,
Okay.
yes.
And
we
you're
are-
okay with that?
Yes,
All right,
that's
we
what we
got that.
signed up for.
We got that on record.
You got that on record.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, just keep us in the loop, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
All right, and City Attorney?
Yeah, this process actually has more oversight than just, I guess, the mayor's office in that regard, because there is supposed to be findings that are made, and they're delegated to the Health and Ed Board here for the city to authorize the mayor to enter into these agreements. That occurred back in 2016 by this council's resolution resolution number 28783, and it was in effect for a 10-year time period at that time. So we're within the time frame that was authorized by this body to do this. And it's supposed to be done on the aspect of developing, review by the Health and Ed Board, finding that there is a need to enter into these agreements to provide additional housing within the city and to allow people to meet the criteria that is required by LIHTC in order to get that done. So there's at least that review. The Health and Ed Board is going to be reviewing that program on here. They can enter into those agreements for a specific time period, and it's only effective as long as y'all allow it to be effective.
And then, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I didn't mean to cut you off. Was just going to say to Councilwoman Coonrod, the developer did just let me know that a misdemeanor will not exclude someone from qualifying for a unit. Yes, ma'am.
All right, Councilman Ledford.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
You good? All right. We have Madam Vice Chair.
So you could be a rollerblader and live in these apartments. Good to know. As I have learned from and listened to my colleagues in this time of my city council service, something that I'm learning is the concerns that are brought up around LIHTC projects extend beyond the numbers. And the way that the state process works, it offers us a surety as elected leaders that the project is appropriately affordable, that that there's good stewardship of those dollars. That's very important to this body. But also, each time we've talked about projects like these, and as we talk about rezonings in our districts, questions regularly come up about the quality of the project and the management of the project. And I've spoken to Jermaine and to Nicole about this, but I would implore you all to consider within Chattanooga's policy for how a LIHTC project would move through the mayor's office, that there be a transparent rubric for grading these projects. So that it's not just that it's gotten a LIHTC award, but that there's a certain quality expectation, not for year 1 through 5, when it's easy for a project to stay bright and shiny, but for year 19 and 20, that when Chairwoman Dotley moves about District 7 or Councilwoman Burrs is moving about District 6, that they can rest assured that whether they are on this dais or someone else is, whether Mayor Kelly is mayor or not, that is a good project for Chattanooga.
Yes, ma'am.
And I've offered ideas for what that might look like, but a framework beyond just the finances for what we're looking for long-term for how we want to build Chattanooga, I think would be useful in providing this council a measure of comfort and confidence in that process that it doesn't sound to me like we have yet. So please take that under advisement and consider it.
This administration is committed to working to that goal, and we would look forward to working with the council on that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chief,
Yes, sir.
maybe, so one thing we might not have thought about in 2016 was actually a mechanism that directs the mayor to work with that council person. I mean, I understand we have this mayor's word that that'll happen, but, going forward, we don't necessarily have that assurance, but sounds like maybe we need a mechanism in place that would ensure that the mayor works with that council person that district's affected. Mr. Attorney, the state law, and there's a difference between allowing it
Yes, sir.
or directing it.
Yes, sir.
Does I'm assuming something here that the state law allows the mayor to send this to the HEB as opposed to bringing it through city council. Doesn't necessarily direct him to do that.
Yes, sir.
Or her.
It's just permitted to delegate that authority. Yes, sir.
Okay. And then our ordinance then I guess, permitted it, but we didn't put a mechanism in there to make sure that there was basically some communication,
Well, you have our word
working, well,
that we will work with each council
I
person,
know I have your word, chief,
which means that you have the mayor's word.
but going forward, I think, and what I'm hearing, I think, is something maybe a little more substantial, something that we have in writing. I guess when it comes to taxes, whether you're generating taxes, whether you're abating taxes, whether you're allocating those taxes, I think it should be done by an elected body that's answerable to the constituents, which kind of brings up the discussion in the IDB yesterday about
Yes,
circumventing this council and just allowing the IDB to vote or to talk about the pilots without council input. I just want to be on the record as saying I think that's a bad idea. I think any pilots should come through this body
yep,
and not eliminate this body and just go on to IDB. So
Sure.
I think when it comes to taxes, you ought to have somebody directly responsible to the public, to the people, when you're, like I say, whether you're generating them, abating them, or allocating them.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you, Councilman Henderson. Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chip. But listen, on the campaign trail, and once he took that oath of swearing in, he said, and you can pull the records, because he said it a lot of times, that he wanted to be different from the previous administration, and he was gonna work with council. But I see a lot of similarities to the past administration. But I hear you saying that you wanna, that we're gonna work on it, but let's just give him a call and just ask him what's his plans are.
sure.
And then we don't have to keep, we can get a phone call, because the thing is that when we exercise our power of what we can do,
Yeah.
then we're looked at as we're not trying to work with the administration. But then when you all do it, it's like, oh, well, we found the loophole to where we can just go around council. And, it's not a good feeling, because we supposed to be in a working relationship, because we do often hear from our constituents. They get on us, and then the administration say, well, council voted on it. Well, council voted on it. So y'all got to start taking responsibility for the mess that y'all put us in, because I put my boxing gloves up a long time ago. But I want to address, like, when you saying like the low income housing, like it sound good to some people. Like for me, I'm like, oh man, yes, because we really been needing this low income housing credit, but other people don't look at it that way,
Right,
because the stigma that comes with that.
right.
And when you say that, and we're gonna create this development, our minds instantly go to concentrated poverty.
Right.
And when you look at that, what low income housing has done specifically, I'm in my community.
Right.
In our community, we see what that has done. It continues to perpetuate social and economic inequalities that we continue to talk about here on council. Maybe we should change the wording. We know what the grant or the money is for, but change the wording to call it workforce housing, stable housing, attainable housing, because
Sure.
people have a different view on that, because we already do that when it comes to different neighborhoods that's not really impoverished or declining. You change the word and people get excited about it, because now we're going to house people who are working citizens.
Yes.
When I put the title low income, I'm looking at people who we automatically say we don't want them in our community.
Yes, ma'am.
It's setting our community up to decline and all this other stuff
Right.
that comes with that.
Right.
That's also discrimination to me, because those stigmas that people face, and I've been in that situation before, that I've had a hard time getting housed because of background challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure I'm not the only person in the room, because, it could be the color of your skin, it could be your income, it could be all kind of stuff that prevents you from getting housed.
Mm-hmm.
And, that kind of stuff can, affect a person's self-esteem, and, they don't have to get up to even want to do better and continue to sit in what they're doing. That's why we see what's happening in all these other
Yeah.
communities that, we kind of need to get away from that. But that's all I got to say.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Coonrod. We have Councilwoman Burrs, followed by Councilman Ledford.
You know, that was a really good point. When I talked with the developer, and I imagine he's watching the streaming since you've already gotten a text from him, but the bottom line is, we never spoke low income. That wasn't the wording. They specialize in working families.
Sure, yep.
Affordable housing is whatever somebody can afford.
Yes, ma'am.
And I agree that to keep using the term low income sometimes can be insulting. There are people who are working hard, doing everything right, and they never thought of themselves as low income. I've seen these buildings and the pictures of them, and they're really good looking, they're really nice. They're going to have computer rooms, they're going to have activity rooms, they're going to bring services to the people in whatever it is. That's not the kind of service
Yes, ma'am.
of needy, low-income people.
Right.
So I think the councilwoman is correct. We've got to stop using that kind of language. I think it's demeaning to the people who are working hard and building families. These are not the usual, let's turn a motel into a moneymaker. These are 2- and 3-bedroom apartments. I've seen them. They're very nice. There's examples of them across the board. So I think to keep talking that way probably is demeaning to the very fine people that I think are going to be renting them. I want to agree with Councilman Henderson once more. I think that even though the mayor is allowed to do this, and I understand it, that's not a fight. I guess maybe I'm pretty much, as I've kidded with you about, a purist in government. And I really believe in checks and balances. I really believe in that, particularly when it comes to taxation.
Sure.
Or the lack of.
Sure.
I think that's something that we need to be a little more sophisticated about than just trying, bullying through things that I think, I haven't heard this council against any of it. I've heard we want to know more.
Sure.
So I think a little bit of respect and thoughtfulness is good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Burrs. Councilman Ledford.
All right, Jermaine, last one, I promise. You ready?
Yes, sir. Yes.
I think considering, and I spent an hour with my IDB representative yesterday talking about how we need to streamline the process, but we're talking
That's right.
about pilot, and I agree, and I've said that in the paper. I
That's
think
right.
we do need to streamline. We need a better system that kind of checks the boxes.
That's right.
And set the criteria, and I think council can be very useful
Yes.
in doing that. The only thing I would say is I think it's a bad idea to leave council out. I think it goes against what Mayor Kelly promised about transparency, because by doing this, in my opinion, he is silencing 180,000 plus voices in this city. And that's who we represent by making decisions unilaterally. And I think that we are a good team and we can work better together. I'll end on that.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think the only thing that we would say in response is Mayor Kelly was elected for specific reasons. He won citywide, and he won to promote affordable housing. That was one of his priorities. And so we feel like we are definitely representing and speaking for the people when we advocate for affordable housing, especially when it's for working families, for 2- and 3-bedroom apartments in the central part of our city. But I take your comment, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you, Councilman Ledford. All right, any other comments or questions about the Shalaford Road project? All right, I don't see any more lights. Thank you so much,
All right.
Jermaine.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, without any more questions regarding our agenda discussion today, we will move into Parks and Public Works. All right, can I get an approval on the minutes? Okay, minutes stand without objection. Madam Clerk, if you could read item 7 under final ordinances, final reading, I'm sorry, items B and C. And if you have any comments or questions, council, please hit your lights.
Item B, an ordinance closing and abandoning a sanitary sewer easement beginning at MH number S118K036, following the easement through MH numbers S118K006 and S118K007, ending at MH number S118K008, for a total of 845 feet. Tax map number 118K-A-046.01 as shown on the attached map, subject to certain conditions. Item C, an ordinance closing and abandoning a sanitary sewer easement beginning at MH number S168H045 and ending at MH number S168H046. Tax map numbers 168A-P-003 and 004, as shown on the attached maps, subject to certain conditions.
Okay, I see no lights. Madam Clerk, if you would, resolutions on the Public Works, items J and K.
Item J, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to award contract number E-22-023, Development Resource Center Roof and Solar Project, to J. Brennan Construction Incorporated of Dalton, Georgia, in the amount of $1,273,786.66, with a contingency in the amount of $127,378.67, for a total amount of $1,401,165.33. Item K, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to renew on-call blanket contract number D-22-002-201 demolition services for the Public Works Land Development Office, Code Enforcement Division, for year 204 to Tower Construction LLC of Chattanooga, Tennessee, restricted for use only by the Public Works Land Development Office, Code Enforcement Division, for the annual amount of $650,000.
All right, see no lights. For next Tuesday, December 19th, ordinances under first reading, Parks and Outdoors. Madam Clerk, item A, as well as Public Works, item B.
Item A, an ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 26, Section 26-4, Chapter 24, Section 24-10, and Chapter 25, Section 25-28, relative to skates, skateboarding, scooters, or similar devices. Item B, an ordinance closing and abandoning an unopened right-of-way located in the 5100 block of Strickland Circle as detailed on the attached maps, subject to certain conditions.
All right, I see no lights. And Madam Clerk, if you could finish us out with resolutions I, J, K, and L.
Item I, a resolution authorizing the execution of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Chattanooga and Hope Included regarding the Inclusive Playground Project at Riverview Park. Item J, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into and execute a comprehensive environmental response, compensation, and liability act, CER-CLA, warranty amendment to quitclaim deeds granting CER-CLA covenant and discharging land use regulations on the remainder of release property known as the former Volunteer Army Ammunition Plant, VAAP. Item K, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to award contract number R-22-015-202 Frost Stadium Concession Stand Ventilation Project to J. Brennan Construction Incorporated of Dalton, Georgia, for $194,000, with a contingency in the amount of $20,000, for a total amount of $214,000. Item L, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the wastewater department to enter into an access easement agreement with Don R. Oskey and wife Paula L. Oskey in substantially the form attached for the purpose of providing ingress and egress to the established sewer easement for the consideration of $103,000.
All right, I see no lights. All right, with that, that closes out Parks and Public Works. We do have an attorney-client meeting after this one, and so we will recess until 5 p.m.
6 p.m.
Oh, it's Tuesday. I'm sorry, we recess until 6 p.m. I apologize. All right. All right, that's it.
Okay.
I don't have to hit the light, I don't have to hit the thing.
Zoning night, yeah.
Zoning night, yes, okay. All right, thank you. I don't hit the gavel for that one.